And we're back with Outside the Walls podcast. It's been really fun. Now, we're in Outside the Walls podcast, but we're inside walls today. And we're going to explain that to you in a little bit of why we're inside these specific walls. But today, we have with us Nate Young. And Nate is the pastor of North River Church. And we're really excited to have you with us. I've been looking forward to sitting down with you for some time. So welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate that. It's good to be here, Herbie.
Yeah. So now you're the senior pastor, how do you call it then?
Yeah, lead pastor
Lead
is kind of the term. It's funny. We, I think my predecessor was the founding pastor, and so you only get to use that title once.
Okay.
And so I actually joined the church initially as the executive pastor, and then transitioned probably a year and a half later into the lead role.
Okay. When did you begin to lead the church then?
So in 2017, in the summer of 2017, I left the role of campus minister at the BCM, the Baptist Campus Ministries, to assume the role of executive pastor at the church. And by November of 19, I was sworn in as the second pastor of North River Church, lead pastor.
Oh wow! Just in time for COVID.
Just in time for COVID, yes.
Oh
yes,
my goodness, that's a hard time to make that transition.
It really was a trial by fire.
Oh wow! Now you were the campus minister for the BCM for a number of years, right?
Sure, between 10 and 11 years.
Okay, well, cool.
Yeah.
How did you like working with students?
I loved it. I actually thought that's what I would do. So I went to Bama, and I was a student at a part of the BCM in the early and mid 90s, had a wonderful experience there. God used that ministry to kind of solidify his call on my life, and was discipled by some upperclassmen, got some great wisdom and counsel from the campus minister, and but headed off to seminary to do student ministry. It's going to be a youth minister.
Okay.
And about halfway through seminary out in Fort Worth, Texas, God kind of reoriented me to campus ministry. And so I was a volunteer campus minister for a few years in Texas while I was finishing up seminary, then associate campus minister at the BCM at Louisiana Tech University. Wow. And during that time, looking for a more long-term place to land, because I was there just to kind of get good foundation for ministry, and the lead campus minister there was going to help me find a good spot. And when Bama came open, I said, that's it. They'll have to pry these keys from my dead fingers. And but that was in 06, and somewhere around 17, everything kind of changed, and I felt like it was just time to go. So
all right. Well, I mean, I know you were originally born here and been traveled around a little bit. Now you have an interesting background. I mean, you had two sets of grandparents that served with the Southern Baptists overseas. Is that correct?
I did. They were old school. They were with the FMB, the Foreign Mission Board, way back in the day. My parents actually met on a ship headed to the Middle East. My mother's parents served in Beirut, Lebanon.
Oh wow!
And my grandfather, was just your kind of typical missionary. He, taught at the Baptist seminary there. He pastored and did the typical missionary thing. My other grandparents were a little less traditional. That side of the family is almost completely medical, and so he was a general surgeon, and they were in the Middle East in the Gaza region at the hospital there for a period of time, but eventually spent the majority of their time in Jibla, Yemen, where he actually planted and built the hospital in the mountains of Yemen there in Jibla.
Wow, what a great heritage. I mean, both of those places have been just so big within the Middle East on how they love and care for people. And I mean, I think that whole region right now needs our prayers. We continue to pray for the Lord that the light that was shed by them would continue to shine out through both Lebanon and Yemen and really the whole Middle East right now. Mm-hmm. But that's really interesting. So you have this kind of amazing Christian background, and your dad was a doctor, and you got medical all around. How did you come to know the Lord? I mean, was it just, and then how did you know that He called you into ministry?
So as far as my my moment of salvation, I was raised in that typical, Christian home. If the church doors were open, we were there. And so I was presented and was, knew the story of the gospel from, as far back as I can remember. But it was actually on a Wednesday night in the third grade. I was at church in RAs. So anybody listening that understands Baptist, I call it the Baptist Boy Scouts.
There you go.
And so I was a royal ambassador, and my RA leader shared the gospel, for the umpteenth time, but somehow, some way, it just clicked. That night, it clicked. I knew that I was a sinner and that I was in need of salvation, and placed my faith and trust in Jesus. It became personal. I had I was in the right environment with my family, but that's when it really became mine. And actually, shortly thereafter, we got permission from our church for my grandfather to baptize me while we were visiting over in the Middle East. And so we actually, I had an aunt and uncle who were also with the Foreign Mission Board at the time, serving in Jordan.
Oh, okay.
And so we all met over in Jordan, and my mom's dad baptized me in the Jordan River while we were just making the rounds, visiting everybody in that region of the world.
Well, I know exactly where you were baptized. I've been there both on the Israel side and the Jordan side.
Yeah. So when I remember, I have a picture in my office. I tell people that what you can't see outside the frame of the picture is we had gone down to the water, and we only went knee deep because it was mined at the time. And so there were soldiers on the other side down there with 1980s versions of the Hummers, ensuring that we weren't going to cross over.
Yeah, well, that whole thing has been developed now on both sides.
Is that right? Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, it's really nice, and so, but there's just a little strip, like buoys, like you do, like in the swimming pool. They have that right down the middle of the river.
Wow.
So you don't cross over to the other side. Yeah. And they have soldiers on the other side, but that's just to protect, make sure people don't, because you don't have a passport to go into Jordan.
Right.
So it's not a crossing point, but that's really amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So within your church, what makes your church unique?
Oh, goodness. What makes our church unique? I think I often tell our folks that we are, the life of our church, we've only been a church since really 2005. And I've been there since 2006, first as a member, and most recently as pastor. But I never wanted to be a pastor. I never thought that I'd be a pastor because of the faith background in my family, just a lineage. I actually rebelled and ran for a number of years, and because I know this can't be for
a real Jonah.
Somewhat, yes, yeah. point me to Tarshish, right? So I regularly remind our folks, if I'm not doing this right, remember I'm only a 7-year-old pastor, and so so we're just figuring things out. We are a Baptist church. That's sometimes one of the better kept secrets around. And we walked through the process of figuring out whether or not we wanted to continue to be, and we landed on we really love what Baptists have going with missions and working together, and so I would say what makes us unique is we're maybe not your typical Baptist church. I always kind of shy away from the conversations about what makes different. I think each church is, there's what I loved about being campus ministry is I always try to find something that I could celebrate and shout about in every single church that we served.
I think that's really neat because we are very unique. Each church is, and when you're swimming in it, you don't really see the uniqueness of it. I get a different perspective because I get to go to each church, and that's really been fun for me. But even as you said that, I think that's the thing. So many times we get, how can I say, Baptist is important, but the cooperation we have between the churches is what really makes us Baptist.
It really does.
It's the fidelity to the Word of God, and it's the independence of each church, but then it's the ability to work across that we're networked together in a way that's effective for the gospel.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
And I think that's the coolest thing. And when I'm here, and I've said this over and over again, I'm just awestruck. It's just the caliber of pastors that we have, and of the the cooperation that is there. And like you said, none of us have it figured out. If we had it figured out, we wouldn't be listening to the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
And so we have to keep listening. We have to keep growing. We have to keep moving forward. So I'm excited.
Well, I was going to say, and I've often thought that, if the Bible tells us that individual believers, one could be a hand, one could be a foot, one could be an eye or whatever, and that's all okay because we're part of the body, then why can't churches?
Well, exactly right. And then we have the gifts of each church that brings the uniqueness and the strengths that they have. And I'm just even seeing now a lot of places saying, okay, if you don't have the resources, we have an abundance of those resources, children's programs, whatever. Maybe we can send somebody as a missionary to your church, and then you wind up sending a missionary to another church. I mean, I think we can work. It's so many neat things I think that we get to do together. Now, we're sitting inside of an office right now.
We are.
Why don't you tell us why we're inside an office and where we're at, and why is this a place that you wanted to be able to sit down outside the walls of your church?
We're sitting in the office of a social worker in the Alabama Baptist Children's Home office in Northport, Alabama, right here on Lurleen Wallace. And this is a special place for me. This physical space has not been here that long, but for the past, probably 11 years or so, my family have been a foster family through the Baptist Children's Home. And so over the course of 10 years, we've had 5 little boys come into our home, which is really interesting because we have biological daughters. And so having raised 2 girls, we have been bringing boys into our home, and it has become a passion for us.
Wow! So 5 different placements that you had.
Well, 4. We had a set of siblings. We had a little boy who we actually thought he was 2 when he came to us, and it turns out he was 3.
Oh wow! Okay.
And then we had another little boy who was 7, and then we had a set of brothers, and who were, I guess, 6 and 7, and then I'm losing track now, and then we got the last one when he was 4. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a unique experience too. How has that changed the dynamic of your family? I mean, just walk me through a little bit of this. This is really fascinating because a lot of people maybe could do it, but they don't quite know how to approach it or what does it look like?
Yeah. So both my wife and I her immediate and my extended family have adoption as a part of our story and makeup. And we just, we were kind of thinking, wondering, praying whether or not that might be part of our story. But then we started thinking about fostering. And so we actually walked into our church years and years ago, and there was a pamphlet on the chairs for an interest meeting for people who are interested in foster care. So we showed up for the meeting and then quickly learned that the training was going to be offered on Tuesday nights. Well, back at this time, I was still the campus minister at Bama. And so I was speaking to college students every Tuesday night. And so we realized that wasn't going to work for us. And so we wondered if the Lord might be shutting a door. Well, because I was a campus minister through the State Board of Missions, I got to go to the state convention each year. And so I went to the state convention, and I was walking, and I happened upon the exhibit hall in the booth, and I met some folks from the Baptist Children's Home, and they began to talk to me about what they do. And so I went back and I told my wife, I said, I found another option for us. And so we actually, for 11 weeks, we drove every Sunday night from Tuscaloosa to First Baptist Gardendale and got trained. My daughters actually thought that they called it their second church. And so we were at North River in the morning and Gardendale each night. And so we would drive back and forth for those trainings. And we ended up with our first placement shortly after that. And we just knew God had called us to it. If it's like anything else, if he's calling you, you better do it. If he's not, don't you dare.
Yeah. There you go. So, well, I mean, we've been partnering with Alabama Children's Homes for a long time. And I think it is one of the ministries that we would say is really part of all of what we do together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are people that are called out for that. And I think it's very, very important. And what a ministry. And I've seen that there's also different ways of serving the different families. You may be called to foster.
Mm-hmm.
You may be called to, what was it called?
Respite.
Respite, to help, that you get trained to take the kids for a short time so that the families can go out and do other things.
Those are really the superheroes, because if you're respite, you get to be the fun aunt or uncle.
Oh,
and so
okay.
you just think about when the kids go to the grandparents or the aunt and uncle's house, you know, basically the only reason you say no is if it's a safety or a security issue. But they get to come and you can just have a great weekend with them. And it's kind of like grandparents, you send them back. And, but it really is a blessing for the foster family to, maybe they have something personal going on. Maybe they just need some sleep. Maybe there's, we got respite when one of my grandparents passed away. We didn't feel like that was the right venue for the larger family to meet this young man. And so, and he was very young and didn't know anybody and couldn't understand. And so we got respite for that weekend and when we went to the funeral. And It was a real blessing for us. And
then you also have like Tuscaloosa Angels.
Yeah. Tuscaloosa Angels has mentorship for where you can have an older child, or a high school or a college kid paired with your foster son or daughter for, they can come and hang out with them and do things with them and just be another voice in their life. They have, it's called a thing called Love Box, where you can adopt a foster family and you send them a box of goodies, like a care package periodically. There's all kind of things. There's the Forgotten Initiative is another ministry here in town that they're focused on ministering to social workers and just serving the men and women of DHR, because they are overworked and underpaid and have a thankless job and a very difficult and they've got a lot going on, and they get a bad rap sometimes, and but I wouldn't trade places with them. So, and then now my wife and I we're actually no longer licensed as foster parents. Now I've moved into a different role, and I'm a part of the board of directors and a volunteer for the West Alabama CASA office, CASA, CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate. And so that is an individual that in particularly difficult foster cases where they just need another man on deck to come in as a friend of the court to advocate for the child, to kind of be another set of eyes and ears to make sure that child is being understood and being cared for. And so I'm now a CASA volunteer. I've not been assigned to a case yet, but any day now.
It's really interesting, even as I listen and say, okay, how does this all work together? Because really we have all these caring ministries, and we know that the first commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and spirit. And all of this flows out of that, knowing who we are, knowing. And the second is, of course, the second greatest commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself.
That's right.
But those drive us to the Great Commission, but also the Great Commission drives us back to the Great Commandments.
That's right.
So it all works together as we work to help those with needs around us, help to heal the hurts around us, but also to do it from the basis of Jesus living within us and flowing out from us with the, if he who believes in me, from out of his innermost being will flow rivers of living water.
That's right.
And I think as we see these humanitarian and helps ministries, we see that flowing from our churches and from our members. And so I just want to thank you for bringing our awareness to the Alabama Baptist Children's Home, and just that we can see that all together. And again, we've worked with them, but this is a great place to talk about it. And we would say to people, get involved. Yeah. There's a lot of needs out there. There's still a lot of needs, and we can allow that living water to flow from us. We don't want to be the Dead Sea.
That's right.
We want to see the Galilee, Galilee where the water flows
That's right.
from one to the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, anything else you'd like to share with us?
I was just going to say, as far as ABCH goes, they, I think that they're fantastic. We would not foster without them. They're rock stars, and they have Pathways Christian Counseling as well. So Pathways is the counseling arm of the children's home. And so all the kids and even the foster families get free counseling whenever they participate in as a foster family. And then also I just, my favorite foster dad is Joseph.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
Yeah, because the Son of God was in his home.
yeah.
There you go. Oh, that's fun. Well, thank you so much for doing that. I'm looking forward to it. And tonight, I mean, this will be aired a little bit later,
That's
but
right.
today is actually Passover. And so tonight we're going to be at your church and doing just a Passover Seder, a demonstration of the Seder, and just having a fun time together.
It's going to
Just
be great.
I'm looking so forward to it. We're going to have fun. And that's the neat thing about Tuscaloosa. We just get to have fun together doing the things the Lord's called us to do and being what it's called us to be. So
Perfect.
thank you so much, Nate. Sure appreciate it. Lord bless you.
Thank you.